Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Layne. Welcome to my art studio. Today I'm going to be talking to you about this drawing I created called Khavda Village Elder. This piece is 18 inches wide by 22 inches tall, and it took about 70 hours to create. I drew this using Polychromos pencils by Faber Castell and Stonehenge paper by Legion paper. The paper was actually a white piece of paper. So what I'm going to be doing today is showing you a time-lapse video, and I'll slow down parts of the video so I can talk to you about the detail and how I was able to create this realistic looking drawing with Polychromos pencils.
Working with color pencils can be very slow. I start off as a general rule when coloring. I use a very light touch and I go from the lower left-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner of my paper in oval strokes. Whenever I'm creating a wrinkle in the skin or a divot or a change in texture, I'll press a little bit harder and make a line to kind of map out where that wrinkle is going. And then that's with a darker color like the Morton Violet that I just used. And then I'll go back over it with a light flesh and just create sort of a base skin tone right on top of where I know that wrinkle or that flaw in the skin is going to be. It may look like I'm pressing very hard simply because I'm squeezing my pencil very tight. This just happens to be a bad habit of mine. It sort of makes me feel in control of the pencil, but I'm really actually pressing very lightly. What I'm doing here is laying out the base skin tone of light flesh. With color pencil, we always start with the lightest colors and work our way up to the darker colors. So working from light to dark, the next color I use is Nougat, and I will just gently, lightly go over the light flesh, but I'm kind of going in a pattern, looking very closely at my reference photo on the left. My reference photo is my iPad, and the reference photo was provided by Fabio Mercado, who is a photographer who granted me full copyright release in order to draw this photo. As you build up layers with Polychromos pencils, you'll find that it's much easier to apply the pigment with a very sharp pencil, especially when you get to the upper level layers like layer 4 or 5. I'm often asked how many layers it takes to create a photorealistic piece, and that really depends on your reference photo, the color, the value, and how smooth you want it to be. The last layer of my color pencil drawings is what I refer to as a smoothing layer. Here I'm using the cinnamon pencil to bring more of a flesh tone to the nougat that was just applied. I'm looking back and forth at my reference photo every 1 to 2 seconds. I want to make sure that I map out the values on the skin tone. So you'll see that in some areas I'm pressing a little harder in order to make it a little darker there and sort of have a guide or a map of the skin texture as I go along. In other areas it's very light. I'm letting my reference photo be the guide and tell me how dark or light my drawing needs to be. I'm speeding up the next part here because it is a very slow process, but I'm keeping it slow enough so that you can see me switch to different pencils. I'm building up the layers from lighter to dark, but occasionally I'll go back to a lighter pencil. By starting with the eye and working my way outward, I'm sort of breaking down my reference photo into small puzzle pieces. With so much detail to capture, it helps me keep track of where I'm at. Notice I'm keeping a piece of glassine paper under my hand to prevent smudging the drawing and also to keep the natural oils from my hand off of my paper for archival purposes. So this time I'm starting with a black pencil and I'm just going to fill in the area that I designated for where the wrinkle that goes down the middle of his forehead is. I'm still looking closely at my reference photo and making sure that I fill it in the same as I see it in the reference photo. So most of the time you're starting with a light color and working your way to dark, except for when you're working on these details like wrinkles. I'll start from a dark pencil and work my way in reverse to a lighter tone. Here I'm working on a small patch of skin on the top of his nose. I'm starting with a light flesh and just kind of filling in a base color. And then I go back on top with just a very light layer of nougat, and then followed by a light layer of cinnamon. And you'll start to see how that little patch is starting to look like the skin tone. And then I just continue inch by inch, starting with a light layer, working my way up to the darker colors until I reach the desired skin tone. So for the rest of the video, I'll let the time lapse run so that you can watch the rest of the detail develop. Just as a heads up, there is one spot where it looks like I just jumped ahead. This is because I forgot to hit the record button when I was videoing the progress.